This game was nicknamed the Game of the Century. It was played by chess grandmaster, former world champion, one of the best players alive, Bobby Fischer, when he was 13 years old. This is the Bobby Fischer Immortal game, played on October 17th, 1956, where he is playing Donald Byrne, who was one of the foremost players at the time. This is a beautiful game. Absolutely beautiful. Byrne, after a standard opening, makes a minor mistake on move 11, and from there, everything implodes. Bobby Fischer's got the black pieces, Byrne has got the white. He starts with knight f3, a ready. We get knight to f6, just mirroring. The ready allows you to be really, really flexible. So we get c4, and what we get now is g6. Basically, Bobby is like, I'm going to play sort of if you play d4, I can go for a Grunfeld. But if you play d4, I could also go for a straight-up King's Indian. So Bobby keeping his options open, but he will be committed to either a King's Indian or to a Grunfeld defense. We get a knight to c3. Again, Byrne not committing the d-pawn just yet. Still keeping his option open of perhaps playing a fianchetto setup. Fischer's opted to play a very hyper-modern opening. We get bishop g7, d4, and now short castles. So here, Byrne can play e4 immediately and play into a straight-up mainline King's Indian defense. But he plays bishop f4. Still fine, still flexible, not committing to e4 just yet, but perhaps a little bit inaccurate. We get now d5. This is very much in the style of the Grunfeld. And now here, if you're a normal player, you would play takes, e4, and now you would have a mainline Grunfeld, but you can't go to it in this move order. It is completely winning for black, simply because the bishop is hanging. So in the main line, I take the knight, but here the bishop's hanging. So you can't play e4. You either have to move the bishop or you have to capture like this. And even this might be better a bit for black. So you have to be very careful. So we get d5. Queen to b3 is what's chosen, and this is a really interesting move. You put pressure on the center, and you are putting pressure on b7. We get d takes, and now queen takes, and now c6. Now we get this move e4. We've been looking for it the whole game so far. We get knight bd7, the only way to really develop. You can go out this way. You're kind of still controlling the center a wee bit. We get rook to d1. Now, rook d1, it's not move 11, but it's a very interesting move. Simply because you are not developing the light squared bishop to any of the squares and playing short castles. You are now actively trying to play rook d1 and go for tactics. So now we get knight b6, hits the queen. We get queen to c5. Here, bishop to g4, which puts pressure on the knight, which is now pinned to the rook. So in a normal game, you could move the knight because the rook is still on a1, but now you can't because you've played rook d1. If you play bishop e2 here, you're fine. But here, Donald Byrne makes his mistake. At this point, Byrne's pieces are more developed, so he thinks he can play bishop to g5 and put pressure on this knight. The evaluation jumps to minus 1.9. He makes a mistake, but here we get an all-time move from Bobby Fischer. 13 years old, and one of the greatest moves I think I've ever seen played in chess. He plays the absolutely brilliant knight to a4. He offers up his knight, but Byrne cannot take. Just to show you the line, if you take knight takes a4, Bobby would play knight takes e4. Not giving up the knight for free, but allowing you to take on e7. But what it does is, if you play queen takes a7, we get queen a5 check. You can play b4, but there's queen takes a4. Then when you take on e4, there's rook fe8. You have to play bishop e7. We quickly trade the bishop, and we play bishop f8, and this pin gets me the piece back. Your kingside safety is ruined forever, and black is completely winning. If you try to in-between move, so you still, queen a3 is what's played in the game, but if knight takes a4 is played all the same, we could get this line where you would play bishop takes e7 after knight takes e4. Still the same. Bishop takes e7. This might be something different. But there's knight takes e5, bishop takes d8, and now I grab the knight. And you get the bishop back to safety. I trade, and I ruin your structure, and black is still winning. If you play, you go for all of this, but you go for queen to c1 in this position, after knight takes e4, you don't even go for this. Then there's queen a5, knight c3 blocks the check, but now bishop takes, pawn takes, and knight takes g5. We get the piece back with a ruined structure around the king, and all of that activity that you had has been ruined. 4 of your 5 pieces on the back rank. Your king is in dire straits, and Bobby Fischer would be completely winning. So for all of these tactical complications, after knight takes knight to a4, we simply got queen to a3. This is what Donald Byrne found, and it is the best move, if I'm not mistaken. We got knight takes c3, b takes c3, but now knight takes e4. Still allowing you to capture this 100% for free, but we've already seen the opening of the e-file is completely dangerous. But here's the difference. Basically, Byrne decided to take the knight on move 12. Declined to take it. So Fischer tries again, offering the material to Donald Byrne in exchange for a better position. And I don't know what you do. You have to play bishop takes e7. You cannot go for the line with queen takes. Because it is slightly different. The knight now here is not hanging. We get queen b6. So again, you can fully take this rook and threaten the bishop. But I'm going for devastating effect against your king. So we get bishop to c4 for that reason. Just trying to get the king to castle, but it's too late. So we get knight takes c3. Exquisite move. Just like, you can take this. But you die. So you cannot take this, just by the way. You cannot take this. Queen takes is impossible. I don't even know why. That's how crazy this game is. I'm not even sure why. I think it's got to do with rook e8. If I'm not mistaken, rook e8. Does the eval drops a little bit? What's the winning move here? Analysis. What is the winning move? Let me just check. I thought rook e8 was winning. What is the winning move? Rook a e8. Wow. I just moved the wrong rook. Yep, that's crazy. Anyway. Knight takes c5 is played. So yes, you can try and take rook a8. Gets me at least the bishop back, and your king is still in the center. Your rook is threatened. So we leave the rook to hang and we play bishop c5. Beautiful move. Attacks the queen. Gets the bishop out of the way. That surely solves all of the problems. Surely. Well, we get rook fe8 check. Gets the rook out the line. Gives a check as well. You know. And now king f1. And now what does Bobby do? Because the king is a bit harder to attack here. Well, here. Robert James Fischer has a queen hanging, a knight hanging. Yes, he's got this, but that's not doing anything. Yes, you can try and do this, but the queen's hanging. So you've probably got to play that queen c7, give up this, but, you know, go for tactics, maybe lose the knight. Fischer has one move only. One move only. He tries to do something else, he loses. He plays the brilliant move, bishop e6. This is a very clever move by Bobby Fischer. This is the move that made this game famous. Instead of trying to protect his queen, Fischer counterattacks using his bishop and just gives away the queen. But Byrne can't take the bishop. He simply cannot just take the bishop because this will lead to mate, if I'm not mistaken. Bishop takes e6 is mate in 6. Most of them end with queen b5 check. And the problem is you have to block. I take again. King slides over or it's mated. And what you get is you get this, ladies and gentlemen. You get a smothered mate. Just like this. We would have still gotten a queen sacrifice for the win. So you cannot go for it. Unbelievable. There was actually a faster mate I see here in the analysis. Anyway. So bishop e6. You cannot take the bishop because the queen check on b5 is devastating to the king. But what do you do? Because I'm threatening to take your bishop and to deliver an almost identical mate. Well, you have to take the queen. But that loses. The best move according to the engine, by the way. just as a funny thing, is queen takes c3. Because what this does is this now is no longer as devastating as it will be, and the queen still hangs. So what you have to get here is queen takes c5, d takes c5, which allows the queen to be taken back. And black is still winning, but it's not checkmate. And then, bishop e6, rook e6, and you can try and defend this endgame. This is the only defense that the engine can find to what is about to happen to Donald Byrne. He takes the queen. It's now plus 4.5. We've seen all the variations. Bishop takes c4. He now gives a check, and what he does here is what we call a windmill. He now begins a series of discovered checks to pick up material. So there's check, you give the check, king slides over, we take the pawn with check, we give the check again, we come back, and we take the bishop back, which is a very interesting move. Well, it's an important move, because now the rook hits the queen, and hits the pawn behind it. This knight is defended by that bishop on g7, which has basically been dormant this whole game, but has always just been a lingering threat. And Bobby Fischer's completely winning. This move by Fischer takes out time to capture the piece back, but it doesn't waste time because it threatens Byrne's queen. Byrne cannot just take the knight on c3. It's protected, as we said, so you find it really, really difficult here. We get queen b4, which seems to be the only move. Now, you and I might just play, a b5, for example, which is the third engine move. But no, I play rook a4. The engine thinks knight e2 is more accurate. But Fischer uses his pieces all together in a little concert. They're all tied together, defending one another. And now the queen almost has nowhere to go. The knight on c3 protects the rook on a4, which in turn protects the bishop on c4. This forces Byrne away. He plays queen takes b6. Byrne's queen picks up the pawn, but it's now horribly placed in defense of this king. Fischer has taken, after knight takes d1, Fischer has taken a rook, 2 bishops, and a pawn as compensation for his queen. And he's just up 3 points of material. In addition to that, Byrne is playing without a rook. The rook on h1 has not moved, and now it's got the king smushed next to it. They're giving each other a little hug. That king can't move. It's dead. You give it a check, it's mate. Thankfully, the knight defends that, but king can't move. This rook is dead. The only thing the queen can do is queen here, but it's not doing anything, and this knight is just chilling. You would have preferred if the knight had got taken a while ago, because the king would have some breathing room, and maybe the rook could get out. Absolutely ridiculous. We get h3 trying to get out. We get rook takes a2 now, and now the threats are like unstoppable. We have king to h2 trying to get away. We have knight takes f2. We have rook e1. Finally, the rook gets out. It offers itself for exchange, so the queen can try and get in. You get rook takes e1, queen d8 check, bishop blocks, and now knight takes. But ladies and gentlemen, you have a queen and a knight. I also have a knight, but I have 2 bishops and a rook for the queen. Not to mention 2 pass pawns, and 3 of them defending my king. You only have 2. 5 points of material. We get bishop d5. Now the threats to this white king, there are not enough pieces to defend him. We get knight to f3, trying to hold on. Knight to e4 now. Queen b8. Just getting on this diagonal, trying to, save the king as much as you can. b5. Now the march begins. And it is, ladies and gentlemen, you can march this pawn all the way to b2, sorry. And you cannot stop it. We get h4. Trying. You got to go for the king now. We get h5. You got nothing. You've got nothing. You cannot get... The one weakness I may have is these 2 squares. They're defended by this light squared bishop. My dark squared bishop defends, and if you trade the knight for the light squared bishop, that's fine. But you will never be able to team up on a defended piece. So my bishop can chill here. It can support these going up. The rook can get itself nice and together. We have knight e5. Which now, we've got this, trying to create something. But king g7, Fischer just breaks the pin now on this bishop. The bishop can move. And bishop d6 is devastating. So we get king g1 going back. But now bishop c5. Now Fischer peels away the white king from his last defender. The white king has no more defense. Mate is now basically unstoppable. This series of moves is extremely interesting way in how Fischer uses his pieces. One final thing to learn, we get king f1. It's now mate in 5. We get knight to g3 check. Adjacent bishops can, without opposition, deliver the mate. But Fischer can't do that yet just because the knight is defending certain key squares. So we get king to e1, bishop to b4 check, king to d1, bishop to b3 check, king to c1, knight to e2 check, king b1, knight c3 check, king slides up, and now rook c2 check and mate. The king hunted from h2 to c1 mate. And all 4 pieces are combined to win this game. Bishop defending knight, bishop defending rook, rook giving check, knight blocking both of these. A beautiful game. The queen stuck on b8. The knight finally got to e5. This game has a series of fascinating moves. We have one mistake from Donald Byrne. In an interesting opening that you could ask is quite nuanced, was quite modern for its time when Bobby played it. Bishop g5 loses Donald Byrne the whole game because he doesn't account for knight to a4. He finds just about the best defense, but when you have to find only moves, you can only find so many. Knight takes e4, a devastating shot. He finds bishop takes e7, but there's queen b6, and now he manages to activate his pieces, but he simply can't account for rook f8 check and bishop e6. With knight hanging, with queen hanging, he goes for mate. Because in this position you can't take the queen. I don't know if I showed this line because of check. And it's borderline game over. You have king g1, knight e2. And there's multiple ways to win here. King f1, there would have been knight takes d4, king back. You would have played most likely knight e2 check, king to f1. Oh, this is the game, sorry. This is the game. Yeah, this is the game. Just absolutely fascinating. And we showed the line what happens if you don't take the queen. If you take this and don't go into all of that, there's queen b5, which is just mate in 5, which is devastating for Donald Byrne. What a game by Bobby Fischer. And that is why it is called the game of the century. The best game of the 20th century. Tell me in the comments below, what is the game of the 21st century? What is the best game of the 21st century?